So a few days ago, I made a video about things not to buy or pay for on credit. And most people seemed to agree with me, except when I mentioned cars. But guess what?
I said what I said.
Did I stutter?
When cars were first created, they were solving a problem of getting from A to B more efficiently. But today, they exist for performative wealth. This is looking like you have money when you don't. The appearance of success, when in reality, you're probably drowning in payments. So before we get into where you'll find the money to buy a car cash, let's start with why it's actually better to buy a car cash. A car is a depreciating asset. So what that means is that the minute they take off the ribbon and you drive off the lot, it has already lost value. So even if you changed your mind the minute you got home, the dealership would not take it back for the same amount that you paid for it. So it makes less and less sense to attach a loan to something that drops in value the moment you purchase it and keeps on declining in value year on year. Now let's talk numbers. So let's say you want a car that's valued at 500,000 Rand and you actually can't comfortably afford it, so you decide to get it with a 30% balloon. So that means your installment would be roughly 8.4 on a 12% interest rate. So let's assume that your credit score is relatively good. So the amount for the balloon that you would have to pay at the end of the loan term is 150,000. At the end of the loan term, you would have paid a total of 251,000 in interest, and the total cost for the car would then be about 757,000. So in essence, you would have paid another 50% of the car's value just in interest alone. And let's assume by the end of the loan term, you actually don't have the 150,000 Rand saved. So this would require you then to actually pay it month to month and get charged interest on it as well. So then the cost of the car goes up even more. And you may end up paying much closer to the actual value of the car in interest only. But to combat this, what most people decide to do is trade in the car and start the cycle all over again with an even bigger debt and a bigger chunk of their income gone. Because who would trade in a Benz for a Picanto? No one. So they get into a cycle where they never own the car, and if they were to lose their income or their job even for a short while, the car would get repossessed, and the only reminder would be the debt. So I want to share with you 5 principles that I've learned about cars that may help you to decide on an approach when it comes to vehicle financing. So number 1 is only buy a car if you really need it. When I bought my first car, I didn't really need it. I was living 2 kilometers away from work, so I used to walk to work. But I was in a graduate program, so my peers were starting to buy cars, but I was also worried about having to commute to clients because I was in a consulting role. I have a sister who's in a similar role now at the same company, and she has managed to survive 3 years without getting a car. She interchanges between taxis, Gautrain, buses, and Ubers. Now, the good thing is that when you're a consultant, you get reimbursed for traveling to clients. You might actually never incur transport costs because what you get back will likely cover all of the transport costs and even leave you with surplus, depending on the distance traveled, of course. But when you own a car, your expenses are not typically fully covered by that reimbursement. You can't fully cover your installment, your insurance, your tracker, and your fuel, all in that amount that you get reimbursed. So by having minimal or no transportation costs, you can actually save more money if you're intentional. Before I bought my first car, I used to save about 5,000 Rand every month, and that was about a third of my net income. But after I bought my car 7 months after I started working, I could not save as much money. And in fact, my car's expenses consumed the whole 5,000. I've done some math and I've realized that if I had just waited a year, I would have been able to save enough money to actually buy a car cash. I even got promoted 6 months later and moved to a cheaper place, so I would have been able to save even more money than the 5,000 that I was saving before, and could have ended up with well over 100,000 Rand, which was a really good amount of money 10 years ago. But if for you a car is a need and you don't have time to save, then the next steps are for you. Principle number 2 is don't buy a brand new car. So I've had 2 cars. The first was a Hyundai Grand i10 and the second is a Mazda CX-3, and both of them were demos. So I think the first one had about 5,000 kilometers and the second one had about 7,000 kilometers. So I've actually never experienced the peeling of plastics off of a car. But getting demos has saved me money because, like I said, cars depreciate the minute you drive them off the lot. So use that to your advantage. You want a specific car, go and look for the demos. I think for the first demo, I saved about 25,000 Rand, and for the second one, I saved over 50,000 Rand. And the best part is, who's gonna know? Who would even know that the car is not brand new? But besides getting a demo, you can also consider getting a second-hand car, as long as you have the knowledge or you have somebody who has the knowledge on how to get a good second-hand car that will not give you problems. The third principle is buy an A to B car as your first car. Your first car doesn't have to be your dream car, unless your only dream in life is a car, because otherwise it will actually hinder you from achieving your other dreams when it's taking all of your money. My rationale is that a person who can afford a 10,000 Rand installment can afford to save 10,000 Rand plus. And think about it. When you have a car that costs you 10,000 Rand just installment, you still have to top up with fuel and you still need to pay for insurance. So when you put all those things together, they might come to about 15,000 Rand. So let's assume your traveling costs at 3,000 Rand without a car. So that means you would be able to actually invest 12,000 Rand. And in a year, that would be about 150,000 Rand, which could easily get you a starter pack car. And when you buy the car, your income will still be largely free to actually work towards your dreams and even your dream car. But even if you were to finance a vehicle, you could still finance a vehicle that is at 5,000 Rand instead of 10,000 Rand and save the difference. And that would then enable you to still invest for your future and invest for your dream car. Number 4 is consider a lower spec of the same car. Sometimes you are very committed to the look of a certain car, but you can still get the same car, just a lower spec or a trim level of the same car. When I bought my CX-3, there were 4 variants of the car: the active, dynamic, individual, and lastly individual plus or Hikari. So I wanted the individual because I wanted cruise control and I also wanted a charging pad. But I ended up getting the higher end trim level, which is the Hikari, because the demo version of it was even cheaper than the individual. Now the funny thing is, I can probably count on one hand the number of times that I have used the cruise control. And my phone couldn't charge on the charging pad, so I had to buy a cable. I also couldn't figure out the onboard navigation system because I didn't read the manual, so I navigate on my phone. I also never got used to Android Auto because my old car didn't have it. And I hardly use the sunroof because it's so noisy when I'm on the highway, which is where I drive most of the time. So I could actually have just bought the CX-3 Active, which I could have paid for in cash, which doesn't come with all of these features that I thought I needed. Principle number 5 is keep the car you have for as long as possible. This is something I'm trying to do with my current car. The first car I kept for 7 years, but I actually think I should have kept it longer. Because if I did, then the money that I used to settle my current car could have gone into paying off my home loan, or even into a deposit for a house. So that decision of replacing the car actually delayed my other dreams. I know the idea of buying a car cash can seem a little bit far-fetched because we are so used to the idea that there always has to be a loan attached. And when you deviate from the norm, people think that you're crazy. And this is why a few years ago, Yols from Yols' channel was actually dragged when she revealed that she bought a Mercedes-Benz GLA cash. And that is something that should have been celebrated. But people were saying that she should have invested the money instead and financed the car. But there is no investment that I know of that will pay you more in interest than what the bank will charge you for interest. And the sad part is that people will shame you for spending your savings on a car because, oh, what if you have an emergency or something comes up and you don't have the money for it? But then they will go and finance a car and still not have a single cent saved. For me, the lesson here is saving and investing works. There is no other magic formula. At the moment, I'm very close to paying off my home loan because I don't have a car payment. And I reckon if y'all can buy a luxury car cash, then I can do it too.